Hello Internet, and welcome to my review for Tokyo Ghoul Re Episode 15. This video is a couple of days late. I've just been really busy the past couple of days, but I am back, ready for this week's episode of Ghoul. When we last left our heroes, we had crammed pretty much the entire Koklia raid into a single episode, from the start of the raid, where 13 left off, all the way up to Arima's suicide, which is a shit ton of content, all crammed into one episode. But none of that matters this week, because we finally jump into Rushima, that was kind of teased in the first episode. Now we're actually, getting into it. And right off the bat, this episode did not leave me with high hopes for it going in. It did eventually. I think in the end, this episode was a significant step up from last week's. Not one that leaves me with much hope going forward, but, we jump in, and, I would not blame anyone for thinking they had missed an episode. We have, What's-Her-Face with the hair fighting Shikurai, who has never even showed up in the anime, I don't think. Musuki is fighting Torso for a hot second. Hachikawa, who showed up for, a single episode in Rude, is fighting Takizawa, and he's quickly killed by Takizawa. And yet, it's so out of nowhere that it definitely feels like there's an entire other episode leading up to this. But there is not. It's just, Season 4 is a mess, Which, honestly, we all knew would be a mess going into, because they're trying to adapt 130 fucking chapters into 12 episodes. Who the fuck thought this was a good idea? Anyway. So, on to the actual episode itself, not just the opening shots. So I remember in the manga, Hair Girl and Hachikawa's relationship was kind of sparse. There wasn't a whole lot to it, but it's just not there here. They try to pull out of thin air as Hachikawa throws her off the cliff to help her get away from the ghouls. But it doesn't really work. There's a quick bit about, oh, you shouldn't hide your freckles because I have my face missing. But besides that, it just, I don't know, just didn't really do anything for me. But right after that, Hanbei and Misa fight for approximately 5 seconds, and neither of them have gotten any screen time or development in the anime. In the manga, by this point, we had Hanbei's one shot. We had I think, is that great little Naki, when Naki's henchmen take Misa to see Naki crying out the dead white suit's names. I think that had happened by this point, and it's one of my favorite moments in the manga, and it's one of the reasons why Naki and Misa are two of my favorite characters, is because we really see the development grow up from there. And that's just not here. So we saw Misa briefly at the auction, and she's been MIA since then. She barely did anything at the auction. So yeah. But anyway, Hanbei has Misa on the ropes. He's about to kill her, when all of a sudden, Corona's back, which means it's time for some more important manga stuff. So one of the biggest weird things Route A did was they just kind of dropped the Yasuhisa twins. They fight Suzuha, they both run away pretty alright. Not Suzuha. Juzo. They fight Juzo. Shit. Suzuha. What am I thinking of there? Fuck, I don't even know what I was thinking of there. But yeah, they fight Juzo for a little bit, and then they, hide in some kind of place. Suzuha was Steins Gate. That's where I got lost there, sorry. Yeah. So they fight, Juzo for a hot sec. And this is way back in Rude. They fight Juzo. They hide in this little, hallway. Amo notices them, oh, it's you two. And then they are never seen again. The manga didn't give them much more closure than that. Kind of abandoned them at around the same point in the manga, the roughly equivalent arc. But it did give them a kind of resolution, and this is important to this episode. Nashiro dies in Corona's arms. And that's kind of the last we see of them in the original series until Corona pops up here. saying that Nashiro is still alive inside of her, and she's like transplanted Nashiro's Kakugan into her face, whatever, But as they're fighting, before we get to that point, they're fighting, and she's like, she's about to kill Hanbei, and then Suzuya shows up and like, nope, not killing my boy. And then the rest of the Suzuya squad shows up and all come up against Corona. And then she says something to like imply that Nashiro is still alive, and Suzuya like, what? I thought I killed her last time we met. And then shows off the face on her stomach. And they censored it out, just about. Like when it's first shown, when we see her again with Kano, we get a better look at it. But I have more than my fair share of complaints when we get to that scene. But she it's kind of shown as darkened out for like a split second, and then we just move right on. And speaking of moving right on, Juzo is like stabbed through the heart by Corona. And in the manga, this was a big fucking deal. It was like, oh shit, is this it for Juzo? It was like an end of chapter cliffhanger. I think the next chapter moved on to another plot point, just like to keep us in suspense over Juzo. And then here it's just like maybe it's better that they don't like keep us in suspense the whole time, but I don't know, it just didn't really work. Meanwhile, Hogi, another no development character, and Akira run into Tatara, who also does not have a lot of development, but he at least has a cool character design, so I'm not gonna fault him. And they fight for a little while until who comes in but Takizawa, fresh from killing Hachikawa earlier on. And I feel like we should have seen a bit more of his progression to reach the point he is when he faces down Tatara. But it is still nice to see him finally get revenge for Tatara, nearly killing him and kidnapping him and letting Kano ghoulify him way back at the end of Route A. I love Takizawa enough that, like, alright, it makes sense that he would kill Tatara. But after that, he then goes on to kill Hogi and everyone else, and I think he's just kind of crazy. Oh, right, because he was like, yeah, we're going to take down Owl, and then Takizawa was like, ooh, nope, and he just wiped them all out. But around that time, we get one of the few genuinely good moments this episode has. And that is, Takizawa's flashback works really well, actually. You really have to, like, feel, like, the terror of Takizawa as he has to, like, deal with the fact that he's a ghoul now. That he is the thing he spent his life trying to stop. And honestly, it just kind of worked, in a way that, like, not a whole lot else in the episode works. Speaking of things that didn't work as well as they should have, Amon shows up and, like, or Takizawa was, like, clutching Akira by the throat. Amon shows up, slashes, like, his arm off, and that should have been this big, like, fuck yes moment, go Amon, stop Takizawa, yada yada yada. But instead, it's just kind of there. And that's kind of the big thing this episode does wrong, is it has all these big moments, but it doesn't treat them like they're big moments. For example, and the most damning one, so Corona finally corners Kano. In the manga, this was like at least, 10 chapters between Corona first showing up and her meeting Kano. So her quest to find Kano has been a big kind of part of the arc, not just like a little bit of one episode. And it's kind of like horrifying when Kano's like, yeah, that's not Nashiro. You transplanted some of her skin into like your chest or your torso, your stomach. And it just happened to take the shape of a face, and you've been assigning meaning when there wasn't any, it's just a fart. It's just gas escaping through the holes. That was like this, it was like for Kano, it was like flippantly, like how the series kind of does it. But we see that, as I recall, through Corona's perspective. And Corona, that's not a flippant moment for her. That's this, holy fuck, what have I been doing with my life? And that's the route they should have taken that. If they want us to give a shit about Corona, which they don't really give us a whole lot of reason to anyway in the anime, but if they wanted to, they should have, told that scene from her perspective. It would have worked better. But some things did work better. Once the Takizawa Amon stuff actually gets going, it works really well. So one of my biggest problems with the music in this season, there's really nothing fittingly, dramatic about it. So, Takizawa Amon fight doesn't really work as a dramatic, this is so, intense, but it definitely feels kind of tragic. Takizawa is this tragic figure who had, he not been captured by Tadara at Anteku, he could have had a long and semi-happy life as an investigator. It was a big point of last season that there is no happy life as an investigator, but, and so as this kind of, tragic, we could have been friends kind of fight, it does work pretty well. So yeah, that stuff works. Before the fight's interrupted by the Quinxes, which brings me to a problem. This problem actually comes from the manga. So the manga actually does tell us the other people with Psycho and Urie are the second gen Quinxes. Essentially, after everything that's happened in the first season, Yoshitoki, what's what I'm looking for? He approves, I guess, a new generation of Quinxes. And they all get names in the manga, but what they don't get is any development. So don't expect to care about them because there's nothing there to care about. And that'll be a big problem later on in the manga. And the manga, they try to make us care about one of them while forgetting to develop him, which is a problem. Nothing about the second gen Quick doesn't really work at all. At really any point, even in the manga, which is leagues ahead of the anime at this point. So don't look forward to them. But meanwhile, after Corona distracted Hanbei, Naki showed up and rescued Misa, apparently. Because Misa wakes up and Naki's, beaten and bloodied. And then, Naki passes out. Misa wakes up. And then Ui shows up, who is one of the investigators. He briefly showed up last season. If you don't remember him, he didn't do much last season. Don't worry. He doesn't really become a character until around this point in the manga. And, Misa looks absolutely fucked at this point. Ui's got a bunch of henchmen. And then Naki shows up at the last damn moment. And the direction remembers, these are supposed to be, intense fuck yeah moments. And frames it like a fuck yeah moment. Finally. It actually managed to be kind of cool, Even though Naki, Misa, and Ui all were not developed in the anime whatsoever. And I'm not entirely sure how much of that is entirely dependent on my own personal love of Naki and Misa from the manga. I don't know, but that scene worked for me. That's all I know. Then we cut back to Kano and Corona, and then Nishiki's just kind of there for some reason, and then Tsukiyama shows up with Naki and Misa, and I think the manga went into why they were there. I'm still not entirely sure why they chose to go there, but that's it for this episode. Our next time says that we are finally getting a, admittedly, probably bastardized version of Mutsuki's backstory next week. So that's something. Mutsuki's direction after this arc kind of leads the course of the rest of the series, and it's the one point I'm really, really not sure I like or not. I either, I'm fine with where Mutsuki goes from here, or I despise where Mutsuki goes from here. Mutsuki's a mess of a character, and I'll get into that more next week. He's just, But anyway, all in all, this was not a good episode. It does not reach the dramatic awfulness of last week's. It's hard to beat stuffing the entire Cochlear raid into a single episode. And it had some decent moments. The stuff with Takizawa and Amon worked, Naki saving Misa worked, but a few moments does not a good episode make. It was still incredibly rushed. A lot of important moments were just not only rushed, but not really directed well at all. Honestly, this adaptation is very quickly becoming just like, how do I want to phrase this? Just a collection of scenes from the manga, poorly directed and vaguely put in the order they're supposed to be in. It's just not very good. Season 4 is really bad. And it's just a shame. Because, you know, all of the other seasons have their problems, but they were all, at their core, remembered what made Ghoul great. And that is the character work. It's not the fight. No one watches Ghoul, no one reads the Ghoul manga and are like, damn, this is a damn good fight scene. Because no, there are no damn good fight scenes in Ghoul. Shuichi does not know how to draw fight scenes. Whatsoever. The thing that makes Ghoul work is the character drama, not the fights. And this season is just nothing but the fights. Like, oh, screw all the character work that people like about Ghoul. How about admittedly, the fights are a lot more legible in the anime than they ever were in the manga, because again, nothing is readable. None of the fights are at all readable in the manga whatsoever. The manga's got its own fair share of problems I'm not going to go into here. But yeah, this last season is just bad. There's no, say what you will about Route A. Route A took some great liberties with the original manga, but they worked. They weren't like, oh, let's try to stuff, Kano's lab and Kaneki's group forming and the disbanding and Anteku all into one 12-episode season. They were like, nah, this doesn't work. Let's write that one out. This doesn't work. We don't need that here. Shuhei Morita did his fucking shit right. He knew how to do an adaptation. He knew how to cut what he needed to cut to tell the story he wanted to tell. And whoever is directing Re 2 has no idea what he's doing. This is just not a good show at all. I'm really sorry. I'd love to be positive about things, but there's not a lot of positive shit to talk about in this new season, so yeah, I'm gonna leave this off here. Hope you all enjoyed the episode a lot more than I did, and the video. If you did, feel free to drop me a like, subscribe, or do whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Bye!